What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another video here. I know it's been a while, so let me start with a few things to get you up to date. I was preparing for nationals a while back, whenever nationals was. I think it was like 2 weeks ago, probably. Um, and I was really preparing standard. I was practicing my draft. I was trying so hard, and a few days before nationals, I realized that I wasn't actually qualified for it. However, I'd already made hotel commitments and driving commitments with some friends. So I thought, you know what, I might as well go down on Friday and try my luck at the last chance qualifier. And if you don't know what a last chance qualifier is, it's basically a 5-round single elimination tournament. So basically, you have to win every single round. As soon as you lose at any point, you are out. And it's 32 people, whatever. Eventually, so you have to win every round, and then you have to win the finals. And if you win the finals, you get a qualifier to play in the main event in nationals. So that was on Friday. Nationals was over 2 days on Saturday and Sunday. So it took a while for one of them to fire because most of the people that showed up early were doing the last chance trials, and the trials were a way to get buys in the main event if you were already qualified. But if you were not already qualified like me, you had to wait a bit to get enough people for it to fire. But once it fired, I got to play about 3 rounds of standard because there wasn't enough people, and I got a few buys, so I got buys in round 1 and 2. So then I had to win 3 rounds in a row of standard, and I was feeling pretty confident because me and a friend, we brewed up a really, really solid Temur aggro list, Temur energy aggro list, and I was able to thankfully beat up a few decks on the way to the finals, and then beat the finals, and then I got qualified for nationals, which was great, because I was able to spend that weekend actually competing. And over nationals, I started out the day really great. I was 3-1 in standard, but then in the draft portion of day 1, I went 1-2. So my draft kind of got messed up, but that's okay. I played in day 2. Overall record ended up being 7-5. In fact, I got to lose to Huey Jensen in the in the final round of day 2. So round 12, neither one of us was live for top 8 or anything. We were both 7-4, and trying to cash. And we played a pretty. It's a very humbling experience to play against a world champion. So overall, I'm happy that I was able to compete. I'm happy that I got a positive record, and I'm happy that I was able to play against high-level competitors. And that's overall how you get better as a player over time. But overall, that's my summer for you. My next step is to compete at the SCG Classic in DC coming up, and I haven't quite decided what deck I'm playing. With that said, let's talk about what's going on in Modern right now. And for me, that's blue-white control. So a lot of people the meta is very linear right now, right? You have Storm, you have all these variety of aggro decks. And in a metagame like that, while we don't have a great Storm matchup, I think we are very well positioned to beat up all of these aggressive decks, which is why I'm revisiting blue-white control, and it's been a while since I've touched blue-white control, but there have been numerous new cards that have come out that have made the archetype significantly better. So let's talk about it. There's still the Serum Visions, Path to Exile, Spreading Seas Core. You have your draw, you have your disruption, you have your premium removal. And that's when you start getting to the flex spots. I would say those 4 slots are just, do not change. And then that's when we start getting to flex spots. So we have 2 Wall of Omens, shore up the early game, draw a card, protect some life damage. We have Mana Leak, Negate as our 2 mana counter spells here. 2 Snapcaster Mages, and you see I skipped over a card here. I'll talk about that soon. But we have 2 Snapcaster Mages, kind of this late game utility spell that can hit many of our cards in our graveyard. We have Detention Sphere as this catch-all removal spell for a wide variety of permanents. Guinea of the Trials is an addition. I'm not sure. I believe I've tested it out in blue-white control on this channel. But if you're not familiar, Guinea of the Trials really helped blue-white control become, I would say, tier 2. I don't think it's tier 1 right now, but it's definitely tier 2. It might be tier 1, actually. I haven't actually looked at the metagame breakdown in a while. But regardless, it's what helped bring it to tier 1 for a certain amount of time, because of its ability to come down, lock down threats, and this ability to make combo matchups a bit better with its 0 ability, right? So it forces your opponent to answer Gideon before they can kill you. And usually that's enough to either buy you time or just make it completely impossible for your opponent to answer it. which is what I really like about Gideon. Then we have a Vendilion Click here. It's kind of a clock. It can trade with 3 toughness creatures. It disrupts your opponent. So it does a wide variety of things, and I like having it because blue-white control can sometimes, the games can go really long. So having this ability to play Click, play Gideon, and start beating down to close out a game that you can't necessarily beat in the long game is really important. Then, of course, there's 2 Verdicts, 3 Cryptic Commands. Again, these cards are core. In fact, most builds run 3 or even 4 Verdicts. But in our case, we're running 2 Settle the Wreckage in place of 2 of the Verdicts. And I'm trying this out because I think Settle the Wreckage can be really useful in some scenarios. It can hit man lands that are attacking. It can, exile creatures. It can hit Etch Champion and all these things. And it can also let you just hold up mana on your turn, on your opponent's turn. So that's what I really like about Settle the Wreckage. I don't know if 2 is the correct number, but I'm kind of just wanting to try it out a bit. Then we have Gideon Jura as this kind of top end, helps the Gideon emblem, and it's just also a clock to help close out the game faster. And now we can talk about Search for Azcanta, which I think, and I know a lot of people don't, but I personally think this card is well suited for the modern metagame. Yes, there are some decks that are just so fast and they don't care about card advantage. We can attack those decks from different angles. This card allows us to, once we've controlled the board, which we do very often against mid-range aggro decks and even in the control matchup sometimes, once we do that, it's hard to pull ahead, right? You're sometimes relying on the top of your deck, to get you there. This Search for Azcanta just makes sure that every turn, no matter what, you have something to do. And that something is digging through your deck to find ways to close out the game or take control of the game. So it's definitely not a win more card, in my opinion. I think the only tough part is the front side is a bit lacking, right? It's like scry 1 each turn, sometimes fueling Snapcaster Mage. So that's, of course, the tapping out 2 mana on your turn is sometimes detrimental to your game plan. With that said, I think the upside is high enough that it's worth trying out. And I have tried it out, and it's been pretty good in most situations. But hopefully you guys get to see that in some of the matches today. And then, of course, we have now, of course, we have the mana base. I haven't changed much. However, Field of Ruin is this new card that has come out recently, and a lot of people are saying it might be a little bit better than Ghost Quarter. And I'm inclined to agree with what I've tested. Whether all 4 Field and 0 Ghost is the correct number, I'm not sure. But I definitely think Field of Ruin deserves at least some number of slots in this colorless, anti mana base. This hateful slot here. We generally have 4 to 6 of those in blue-white control. I'm only testing 4 right now, but I do think blue-white control is very well suited to make use of Field of Ruin. Maybe even better than Ghost Quarter. And then we have this kind of What of Mystic Gate. I'm not sure what to do with, the 25th slot. Everything else seems to be pretty solid. Maybe 1 Ghost Quarter, but I'm trying out Mystic Gate just so that, like, in the case, because we have so many basics to make sure that Field of Ruin works out, that, in the case that we have, like, a double basic start, like Island, I also want to have double white, and Mystic Gate can help do that, sometimes, of course. But anyways, that's the build I have here for blue-white control. Is it optimal? Maybe not, but is it good? Yes. And so that's what we're going to try out today. See what works, what doesn't, and maybe we can work towards incorporating Azcanta and Settle the Wreckage into just standard blue-white control. With that said, let's talk about the sideboard as well. It's pretty standard. I haven't done anything exciting. I took a bit of notes from the recent 11th place finisher at the SCG Open. I like the way that they constructed their sideboard, and so I took most of that. Basically, you have 2 Rest in Peace, 2 Stony Silence, very good hateful cards. I have a Blessed Alliance here to gain life against burn, as well as hit Hexproof. And then, of course, we have Celestial Purge as well, exiles red or black permanents. We have Timely Reinforcements, great against burn again, also against a lot of aggro decks, but I just like having one of these in the sideboard. A Ceremonious Rejection because while Tron and Eldrazi Tron are definitely still out there, Chalice on 1 is really annoying. So Ceremonious Rejection doesn't necessarily stop them all the time, especially in the late game, which is why I'm playing 2 Disdainful Stroke over 2 Ceremonious Rejection. Because this also hits Valakut, it hits Tron, Eldrazi Tron, and it doesn't get stopped by Chalice of the Void. So that's why we're going for 2 Disdainful Strokes. We have 1 Dispel, 1 Negate, some bit more counter magic against the less interactive decks of the format, or the most interactive decks, right, like Control and things like that. And then a Jace to kind of hedge against go wide strategies, helps against Empty the Warrens as well. With that said, I'm not sure if I would be comfortable tapping out 4 mana against Storm, but it's an option if we want it. And then Geist of St. Traft to help clock other combo decks. So that's the deck. Hopefully you guys stick around to watch the 3 matches coming up. But I'm very excited to try out this build, and I hope you are excited to see how it runs. So I will see you all very, very soon for the first match with Blue-White Control. See you soon. Alright, what's up guys? Welcome to the second match here with Blue-White Control. Looks like we won the die roll, and yeah, let's play first. Let's take a look at our opener here. Unfortunately, that's gonna have to be a mulligan. Yeah, no blue mana there. Is a killer. Here, this is a keep. It's a pretty sketchy one though, so we'll see if Supreme Will on turn 3 can be good enough in this matchup. But we'll go ahead and keep on 6. Our opponent's going down to 6 as well. However, they are on the draw, so it's a little different. But at least it evens it up a little bit. And yeah, I'll keep another land on top, for sure. We'll lead on Island because that way we can turn 2 Path if we need to, and then we can set up for turn 3 Supreme Will if we have to as well. Looks like our opponent leads on Misty Rainforest. Not necessarily sure what that might be. Could be like Bant, some sort of Bant build, Bant Nightfall. Could be some sort of Coco build. But I guess we'll find out, right? If it is, in fact, some sort of Bant build, we are great to have dodged the turn 1 Mana Dork. A Stomping Ground is interesting. I wonder what... Ooh. Temur? Noose Constrictor? Alright. That's spicy. Question is, do we want to path that right now? I don't think so. I don't think we need to rush anything, really. I think we just want to go ahead and keep up Supreme Will here, and end of turn Field of Ruin, the Stomping Ground. Try to mess up our opponent's mana base a little bit. But we'll see if our opponent, like if they were going to, discard, a Dredge card, maybe that changes things. But, here I'd rather just keep this up, Supreme Will. And then next turn, if I can get an island with Field of Ruin, I can keep up Cryptic Command. But right now a 2/2 is really not something that troubles me, and I just want to make sure that my opponent doesn't get too ahead on mana. I don't want to ramp them up when it's relevant. I want to ramp them when it's just completely irrelevant. Flamewake Phoenix, huh? You can combat on your turn. If you control a creature with power of 4 or more, you may pay 2. I see. Alright, I'm going to let that happen. If they discard another card... Discard another Flamewake Phoenix. Okay. So here would be a good spot to Path to Exile. Hollowed One. Ooh. That's really spicy. So no matter what I do here, they're going to have double red mana. The question is, I probably want to counter this here. And that means I'm getting hit for, what is that, 8? That's pretty good. So the question is, if I Path to Exile here, that is an issue. Because if I Path to Exile right here, then they stick around with 4/4. Then next turn I can at least answer that. So it's the question of, do I want to ever answer this Hollowed One, or do I want to save 4 life? And I think the question is, I think I want to answer this 4/4. In the case that we never draw another path, another verdict, I want that to be off the board. So the fact that wasn't Mana Leak was actually really relevant, right? Because if I could Mana Leak that and then Path to Exile this pre-combat, ooh, they're going Rancor. Wow, that's so aggressive. So they get to bring back 1 Flamewake Phoenix here, which I guess better for us, unless they have another... Oh, but then they get the Rancor back, and so they can always So that's the same amount of damage, actually. Yeah, that's something. So I'm gonna lead on Serum Visions here. Try to look for like a Supreme Verdict, and that's a Supreme Verdict. I also like the Spreading Seas here. Cut them off of like red mana. Also, seems pretty good to me. So I'm gonna go ahead and go like top, and then in 2 turns we can go. So I guess the question is here: are we okay with taking another 6 next turn? And then we can just get Azcanta down. So we're not really scrying anything. Yeah, I'll get Azcanta down, right? So that way we can save the Path to Exile for something, but it does mean we're taking down our life total to something significantly low, especially in the face of a red deck that could easily have lightning bolts. Yeah. Our opponent's talking about our search for Azcanta here. That's all right. We do in fact love it. Actually, we might go down to a pretty low life total here. I didn't quite consider it. We go down. We take 8 here. Actually, 8 is more mana, more than I thought we would go down. Yeah. So we take a fair bit of damage here. We go to 4. If our opponent has like a Become Immense deck, they could Lightning Bolt us here. Wow. So we go. What? Oh man. Are we dead? Oh my gosh, we just died. Oh man, that was punishment right there. Punishment. Could have easily just kept up Path to Exile. Search was not doing anything there, so that's definitely a misplay for me. All right, in that case, I like the Rest in Peace. I like Bus Alliance is not great actually. Timely Reinforcements, just to gain some life, could be an aggro deck of some sort. So I think we definitely learned a lesson that match right there. Elspeth could be interesting. She could really help stabilize, but not much else. Celestial Purge hits those Phoenixes, stops their recursion. But if that's the case, then Rest in Peace also does that. So I'm not quite sure I want to get the double hate in there. And what do we want to cut exactly? Maybe we want to cut 1 search. They are an aggro deck. Vanilla Click could be a bit slow. Now we did see their Temur. And Vanilla Click can block. Can surprise block. It doesn't line up necessarily with 4 power that well though. So maybe you want to cut that. Maybe you want to cut this search for Azcanta as well. Yeah, because I'm not sure this is the matchup for search where that's the kind of value we're getting. Because they won't have many ways to answer Gideon or anything like that. So yeah, let's go ahead and run it back and see how that goes. Definitely got punished for the way that I played that game. But here, although we don't have a crazy good start here, we got something going. So in the case that we want, now I think there's nothing wrong with leading on island here. Yeah. And this way we have Gideon, Detention Sphere, Settle. We got a lot of good things going. This time they have the ramp on turn 1, which is probably going to be pretty helpful to them. Here we just take it slow. Obviously nothing to do on turn 1 or 2 here, but we have Settle the Wreckage, which would be pretty nice against some of their spells. However, we do see a lot of blue mana here, which makes us think that they probably have some type of negate effect. Wow, so then they just... Oh, so it could be Serum Visions. Interesting. So the blue could be simply there for cantrips, but I have a feeling that we should definitely expect some type of Dispel negate from our opponent's side here. So maybe we should have brought in our Dispel. That's going in a bit deep, though. Sure. They're cantripping a bunch. Did they go bottom? They went top. So they're drawing a card they want. Let's see, they go bottom. Bottom. So that's definitely what we want to see. The question is our Gideon going to die next turn? I don't think so. So I'll happily get it on the board. And that way we can keep up Cryptic or Settle next turn. Do you have Spell Pierce? Ooh, Stubborn Denial. Alright, that got me. However, that's one less Stubborn Denial that's getting our Settle or Cryptic. Or D-Sphere or Timely Reinforcement. So I'm not too upset about that. Alright. So they got their mana base set up. Alright, so they have their bird. Flamewake Phoenix. You're going to Rancor it up? Sure. So now we have a choice. We can keep up Cryptic Command. Alternatively, we can just go D-Sphere on this Flamewake Phoenix and assume they don't have another threat. They probably do, though. The issue is, if we let them untap, then they could have more Stubborn Denials. So I'm just going to go ahead and D-Sphere that right now. They're tapped out. I don't want to overthink the decision too much. They do get, I believe, when Rancor is put into a graveyard, they do get their Rancor back. Which means they can turn their creatures into 4/4s, basically. So that's another land. We know one Rancor. So 3 unknowns in hand. We're going to pretend like we have Path to Exile here, although we don't. Another Flamewake Phoenix. I mean, we could get punished if that's the case. What? Interesting. I have never seen this card before. That's kind of cool. Opponent's getting aggressive here. All right. Hitting for 2. Sure. So here, if they have another Stubborn Denial, I'm going to feel really bad. But I think I just try to get them here with Settle the Wreckage. Cumulative upkeep, they have to discard a card. Oh, I mean, that's a pretty good discard. So if their last card is like a Snapcaster Mage or a Stubborn Denial, that's gonna feel pretty bad for us. They do get to draw a card. I'm gonna try to do that. Let's see if Settle the Wreckage works. Again, they could have Snapcaster or Stubborn Denial here. First time that happened to me. Yeah, I mean, not many people are playing Settle the Wreckage quite yet. I think it's pretty good. In this case, I'd say it's a little bit better than Supreme Verdict because of the cumulative, or the draw effect off of the Vexing Sphinx. They get their Rancor back, which is, good for them, and they still have 2 cards in hand. One of which is a Rancor, one of which is a creature. Here we have 2 options. We can keep up Cryptic Command. I think in this case, just jamming Gideon is totally fine as well. Get a Gideon on board. We'll tick up on something here. That way we can get out of bolt range, and that's why we're not just making an emblem. Even though it might be a useful time to make an emblem, like we don't want it just dying to a Fiery Temper. Birds of Paradise, sure. Rancor on Birds of Paradise, which will force us to maybe +1, but they don't. See, they're going to save the Rancor for when they actually have a relevant creature, which I think makes a lot of sense. Here, we're just going to try to end the game as soon as possible. We need to get we need to actually clock them, right? We can't just sit back, control the game. We don't have a win condition that just wins. We don't have like a Keranos on board that just pings them every turn, right? So we kind of just have to do our best here too. So now they equip Rancor, which I think is fine. Again, there's not much we can do about it. They have 2 unknowns in hand. The issue is, of course, if they have like Fiery Temper plus this effect here. Yeah, I'm gonna Impulse here because I don't think we're nabbing much. Oh, they hit us. They hit us. Wow. That's very surprising. I'm going to get this Path to Exile here. Any order is fine. Again, I'm not too worried about Stubborn Denial in this spot, so I'm going to go ahead and Path to Exile this Birds of Paradise. And this way we can keep on beating down, and we still have Path Snap or Snap Path and Cryptic Command in our graveyard. So, Gideon becomes a creature. Now we're presenting a 4-turn clock. Our opponent has Rancor plus 2 unknowns in hand. Obviously, we have no idea what they are, but we'll just keep on chipping in damage here. I guess if they didn't attack Gideon, then they probably don't have a burn spell. Or they're just trying to get us dead as fast as possible. I just don't think that's necessarily a winning line. I like countering this. And our opponent concedes. Alright. Interesting deck our opponent has here, for sure. Definitely an interesting deck. How useful are Rest in Pieces, really? Like, is Celestial Purge just better? Are we just shutting down these Phoenixes? Yeah, I'm not sure Rest in Peace is where we want to be, but I'll take the, because we didn't see any like delve creatures. Maybe we can assume there's like Hooting Mandrills and the like, but maybe we can't assume that. I guess I'll bring in a Dispel. I like Dispel here. I think it'll be a bit more useful than Rest in Peace. It can hit Lightning Bolt. It can hit opposing counter magic. Essentially, the way we win the game is these cards right here. And a bit of Path to Exile. Again, it's unfortunate that we have to side out Search in this matchup, but I think in most aggressive matchups, that's where we're going to be. We're going to be siding out Search for Azcanta. Because there's just no time to tap out for 2 mana. You know, it can be helpful when you're kind of closing the lid on the game. I don't know. And after we saw Stubborn Denial, like, that's why I don't want to jam Elspeth. Because tapping out 6 mana and just getting, even by like a naked Stubborn Denial, just like no Ferocious, and getting Elspeth countered could be really backbreaking. This hand is definitely not a keep for us. This is a bit better. Mana Leak, I'll keep on top. That's a card that we can interact with, or we can use to interact with our opponent. But we have Settle the Wreckage, we have a Detention Sphere, and we have a Path to Exile. I think that's exactly where we want to be right now. But 6-land or Cryptic Command, definitely not where we want to be. Here we'll just get Flooded Strand down. In the case that we need to fetch up a Path to Exile, or like a Plains to use Path to Exile here. Alright, Noose Constrictor is in. So they're definitely representing Stubborn Denial here. So I don't think this is like the turn where we want to like try to Path to Exile this Noose Constrictor or anything like that. Here we can just keep up Mana Leak. In the case that they don't have Stubborn Denial, we can of course try to Mana Leak something. If they do, at least we get that Stubborn Denial out, and that kind of leaves the way for D-Sphere and Settle the Wreckage to stabilize the board. Here they're going to swing in for 2, I imagine. Sure. No blocks. See if they want to discard anything before damage. Interesting. So that, I think we want to respond to. That way, if they do have Stubborn Denial, they will have to Spell Pierce. All right. I did not expect Spell Pierce. That got me. Sure. Man, this is like all in Temur aggro Delver stuff. We do want to try to manage our life total here, though. All right. Snapcaster Mage is pretty good, right? We can, on their upkeep, try to Snap Path them. I kind of want to save Detention Sphere. All right. I'm just gonna let them fetch here. That's fine. Because they're still representing one blue. We get stopped by both Stubborn Denial and Spell Pierce. Here we'll go ahead and try to nab that right now. If they have another Spell Pierce, all right, they have a Stubborn Denial. No, we will not pay 1. But we will probably block this Noose Constrictor here to try to force cards out of their hand. Yeah, and it also saves life. I mean, I don't think the Snapcaster Mage is getting there this game necessarily. This will force them to at least discard Natural State. See, if they discard Natural State, which is great because we have Detention Sphere in hand. So that kind of works out kind of perfectly. So we'll go ahead and try to D-Sphere here. If they have another Natural State, we're going to feel a little bad. It's weird that we have yet to find a moment to use this Mana Leak, but it's because we've just been on defense this whole game. Alright, so they had another Natural State. Okay, now they're playing off the top. All they have, though, is a 2-mana 2/2 and Mana Producer. So, barring any pretty good top decks from our opponent here, like Fiery Temper, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Alright, we're going to go ahead and Serum Visions here. Path to Exile is great. I'm going to leave both of these on top. Oh, I should have done it the other way around. That's okay. Because then I could have slammed Gideon and -2'd. That's okay. At least now we can still Mana Leak plus Dispel if we need to. Yeah, because then next turn I could have gone Settle the Wreckage plus Dispel backup. So, I mean, we're definitely in a tricky spot here. With that said, we can also Path to Exile next turn and have Mana Leak and Dispel up. So either way, it's not the end of the world, really. I'm going to use up this Mana Leak while I can. I don't want to be forced to have to Settle the Wreckage aboard if I don't have to. But Mana Leak does work here. I'm not going to Path on upkeep in the case that they want to like Rancor on something. And that way I can just Path right before damage if they want to discard some extra points at me. I guess I could have waited one more time. Of course I could have let my opponent try to do something here. But again, answer their board as best as we can here. We know we have a land on top, so we don't want a Field of Ruin here. Just make sure we're turning off our auto yield. Let's see if our opponent wants to do anything about this. I don't think we want to take the 2 damage here. I mean, yeah, we could wait. Gideon -2. I feel like we could get really punished by a Stubborn Denial or a Spell Pierce, which our opponent has shown us that they have multiple of, at least for Stubborn Denial. They have not shown us that for Spell Pierce, but you can imagine that they at least have 1 or 2 from the sideboard, possibly even main board. Again, what we could do here is now we could jam Gideon. The issue is, of course, if they do have the Spell Pierce or something like that, we could kind of get caught with our pants down. With that said, I'm kind of pegging them for having like dead hollowed ones in hand, so I'm just going to jam the Gideon and get punished. Get punished. Oh, man. See, that feels bad. That's like... maybe I could have put them on that because they were thinking last turn about some decision. So that is one of our win conditions down, right? So we kind of have to find a colonnade here. All right, hollowed one. Yeah, so our hollow one. Oh, Gideon is pretty good, though. Go ahead and just uptick on this hollowed one here. And that way, aside from like a haste bird here, we're in a pretty decent spot. And then next turn we can chip in for 4 damage and maybe bait them into Settle the Wreckage. Sure. I imagine we're getting smacked by for 4 again, or for 2. Yeah. That's what our opponent has shown us that that's how they're playing. Here, I'll make Gideon a creature, swinging for 4. This may incentivize them to attack with everything next turn, and then we can settle them. Alright, they don't block, which makes sense. But at least we have the spell backup in the case that our opponent has like a Stubborn Denial. Again, they did see Settle the Wreckage last game, so we kind of have that surprise factor lost a little bit. Even so, they're still going to go for Gideon, which is pretty good for us. And this way we can settle the Wreckage, and our opponent concedes. Alright, so even though we kind of made that slight misplay in Game 1, we were able to bring it back in Game 2 and 3. And you got to see the power of Settle the Wreckage there, where the Exile clause was surprisingly relevant. So thanks for watching that round of Azcanta Control, and stay tuned for another match coming up soon. See you soon.